Welcome back to Net to Net Podcast, NFL edition. Your host Sam Kelty. Today we're going to talk about NFL football news and predictions, and kind of recapping some games from the previous week, while looking at who I like in this week's matchup of Sam's fantasy advice. So we'll start with some of the news. There's been a bunch of injuries throughout the NFL right now. You like the likes of Miles Sanders, who among six Panthers will be out against Miami. You have the likes of Daniel Jones out against the Bills with a neck injury. Deshaun Watson has been ruled out with a shoulder injury. But Mike Evans and Chauncey Kansey and Jamal Dean will be playing against Detroit, with Eagles' Darius Slay and rookie Jalen Carter are both out against the Jets, with also Zay Jones and Walker Little of the Jacksonville Jaguars will be out versus the Colts. And news in Denver, big still moves happening in Denver, which we'll probably see all the way up until the trade deadline. Frank Clark, veteran pass rusher, was released after last week they traded Randy Gregory to the San Francisco 49ers. So big moves. Keep a lookout on Denver players, because Denver's probably going to be sellers at the deadline. So now talking about week 5, which happened last week. We all know what happened in certain games. Bengals got a good win against Cardinals, which was a very good morale win. Burrow connected for Chase 3 scores and 192 yards on 18 receptions. And we forget T. Higgins was out that game, so he relied on Chase a lot. We look at the Eagles beating the Rams. It was a tough defensive battle. Jalen Hurts got the job done. Saints show why they should be the best team in the AFC South against a depleted Patriots, which have looked terrible. The benching of Mac Jones again, which is alarming because they drafted him to be the franchise quarterback, which we have not seen. They brought in Bill O'Brien, who was their quarterback. So hopefully something happens and they can get all on the same page. The Dolphins keep continuing their hot start, 4-1, defeating the Giants. The Colts get another win, in fact, but they did lose Anthony Richardson to a shoulder injury, so he'll be out for a little bit. Detroit Lions, the hottest team in NFL right now. Jared Goff looking like a franchise quarterback, 3 touchdowns, and he ran for 1 to beat the Panthers to keep the AFC North lead in their division. Panthers fall to 5-0. That's looking great for the Bears, because the Bears now still hold number 1 and 2 pick, which I will talk about in my NFL draft mock draft 1.0 episode coming out soon. Desmond Ridder had a great game. He was able to beat the Texans. He answered the critics. He showed why he's the quarterback. 329 yards. He had 1 touchdown in the air. Josh Allen against the Jaguars. Josh Allen couldn't get over the hump, but Jacksonville Jaguars did. In London, Travis Etienne scores twice to beat the Bills 25-20. And then the later games, Steelers versus Ravens. Steelers have had the best of the Ravens whenever they play. Steelers won 17-10. They pulled out a great defensive showing from their defense from T.J. Watt, Alex Heisman, Keon Bentu, Mika Fitzpatrick, and Keanu Neal, and the rest of those boys. It was a very defensive game. They shut down Lamar Jackson and that high-powered offense. I've already talked about the Eagles and the Bengals games. The Jets pull away and get another win against Denver. Denver's still struggling out of the gate. A good revenge win for Nathaniel Hackett after his firing last year in Denver. The Chiefs pull away and beat the Vikings 27-20. Another close loss by the Vikings, but Kirk Cousins is still the top touchdowns leader in throwing and top 3 in yards in the NFL, which he's still playing at a high level. It's just the team is not winning. And then you have the Cowboys versus 9-2 favorites to meet in the East in the NFC Conference Championship game, and the Niners show why they're the best team in the NFL and why they're still undefeated and why they are only one of two teams still undefeated. 42-10, Brock Purdy 4 touchdowns. Looks like a franchise quarterback. George Kittle had 3 touchdowns in the first half. So that was really good. And then the Packers-Vikings. Jordan Love struggled against the Raiders. The Raiders got the job done. But yeah, Jordan Love intercepted 3 times, which is not very good. Jimmy Garoppolo intercepted once, but had 1 touchdown in 208. It was a very defensive game. Matt Crosby and those boys were getting to the quarterback quick. So now we can kind of preview this upcoming week's games. So we already had the Chiefs-Broncos game happen last night, which the Chiefs obviously were going to win. The Broncos have not been good all season, but Patrick Mahomes played okay. Not his great game, not his best game, but still a good game. And then we have at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, we have the Ravens versus Titans. I believe the Ravens will bounce back against the loss to the Steelers. The Titans have been inconsistent all season. Derrick Henry has not gotten going. DeAndre Hopkins has not gone going either, so it should be, I think, Ravens have a bounce back week. Then the Commanders versus the Falcons. I think the Falcons are a better team. The Commanders have a really good defensive team, defensively wise, but Sam Howell, I don't know if he's the answer at quarterback. I think they'll look to draft one this upcoming season in the draft. Then we have the 2 worst teams in the division, the Vikings-Bears against each other in the North. I like the Vikings' chances in this. The Bears are just everywhere. I don't think the Bears have the coach to do it, so it should be interesting. The next game would be Seattle versus Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati continues their hot streak over Seattle. They're home, again, in our home stadium at Paycor. I think they get the job done in Cincinnati. Niners-Browns, I think the Niners will go in and beat the Browns in Cleveland. Not much to say, especially with Deshaun Watson out, and you saw what happened with DTR, Dorial Thompson-Robinson. Did not look good when he started for the Browns. I don't know if they're planning on bringing in a quarterback that's been playing. I know they're kind of hit with injuries over the last few weeks. Especially doesn't help when your quarterback goes down and you want to rely on your run game, but you don't have that run game because Nick Chubb's not there. Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt are good running backs, but they can't get the job. They're not going to give you the same production Nick Chubb gave you. They brought in P.J. Walker. I don't know if he's slated to start. He might start against the Niners if he does play, but either way, Niners are going to win this. Same thing with the Dolphins. They're going to play at home against Carolina. I don't see Carolina beating the hottest team, one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Yes, they lost Devin Achane to injured reserve, but they still have Raheem Mostert, and they're getting Jeff Wilson back from IR. Still fast for running backs. Colts versus Jaguars. Jonathan Taylor played his first game last week, but it really didn't matter. They still had Zach Moss. Zach Moss looked unbelievable last week, and I believe them to still split carries. I like Jacksonville in this game a little bit more because no Anthony Richardson, but Gardner Minshew is not a bad quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts get the dub, but I like Jacksonville in this game. Saints versus Texans. I like the Saints in this one. I think Houston is going to go up against a really good defense. The likes of Marshawn Lattimore, the likes of Cameron Jordan, the likes of Marcus Davenport, and Demario Davis. Those leaders, those experienced defensive players might force C.J. Stroud to throw his first interception of the season, which C.J. Stroud has not thrown an interception, and that's a rookie record right now. Then we have the Raiders versus Patriots. Josh McDaniels going back to play his former team in Vegas. They're at home, but they're going against the Patriots. I think Bill Belichick gets the win here. I think Mac Jones is going to have a bounce-back game. I think the Raiders are just too inconsistent to do much. The next game, I like the Cardinals versus Rams game. I think the Rams have a bounce-back game as well against the Eagles that they suffered a loss to. Matt Stafford, Puka, and Cooper Kupp get back to normal, and they get this win. Jets, Eagles, I like the Eagles. Not much to say about the Jets. They've just been, without Aaron Rodgers, they're not the same team. Detroit versus Tampa, 2 teams that we did not see have this record. I like the lines in this line. Jared Goff just looks unbelievable. Dave Montgomery looks unbelievable this year. They people were like, oh, what are they gonna do? They got rid of Jamal Williams. They got rid of DeAndre Swift. They replaced him with Dave Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Doesn't matter. Their defense, their offense, everything's clicking. They get Jameson Williams back to help from his suspension. Let's hope he gets going. I know they don't have Amon St. Brown, but they got Jameson Williams back. They have Josh Reynolds. Sam Laporte's looking very good. Like they don't need TJ Hawkinson anymore. They got Sam Laporte at another Iowa tight end. They produce those big boys. And then Giants versus Bills on Monday night or Sunday Night Football. I like the Bills. No Daniel Jones. Josh Allen should go in at home and get the stub. And then on Monday night, the Cowboys versus Chargers. Chargers were on that bye week. They are getting Austin Eckler back. Justin Herbert is clear to play. Justin Herbert is having a great season. 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's kept the ball. He's going against a defense that's really good. One of the best defenses in the league other than the Niners. They don't have Trayvon Diggs, which is a huge piece. They've lost him a couple weeks ago to an ACL injury. I like the Cowboys. Tony Pollard's supposed to be healthy. I also like the Chargers in this game too. I'm going to favor the Chargers over the Cowboys just because the Cowboys, they're struggling. They've struggled over the last 2 games. For fantasy advice, I'd probably go with I would avoid anyone on the Jets because you just don't know how consistent they can play. With Justin Jefferson going down on the IR, I like KJ Osborne and I like Jordan Addison to step up. I could see them relying on Anthony Mattison a little bit more on the run game. And then I like my chances if I'm a fantasy player and I'm playing Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, or any of those guys. I would avoid playing James Cook. He has not been the best. It looks like they've been really relying on Damian Harris a lot more. I like Stafford and any of the Rams players, and Puka and Cooper Kupp and Tutu Atwell, just because I think they give you that dimension, and I think Arizona is struggling of late to stop the defensive side, so I like any of them. Players to avoid, CJ Stroud against the Saints. I just think the Saints' defense is very good. They can shut down any quarterback. We've seen it before. I don't like anyone on the Browns against the Niners. The Niners are just too overpowered on the defense side and the offensive side, so I would avoid all of them. Like I mentioned, I like KJ Osborne. I like Jordan Addison against the Vikings. They should play. And then I like Desmond Ridder and the Falcons against the Commanders. They did bench first rounder Emmanuel Forbes last week. Wonder if he'll play this week for the Commanders. But the Falcons also did just pick up Van Jefferson, a fast outside receiver from St. Louis, or not St. Louis, sorry, LA Rams, which can help them on that side of the ball to give more help to Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson and give another weapon to Desmond Ridder. In that sense, we look at, like I mentioned earlier, that there's been a lot of injuries. This year. And I want to know if it's, and I would like to know in the comments, you think it's because they're playing on turf and it's not grass, and you see a lot of injuries happen on turf than you do on grass. And I wonder if that is, and I think that's one of the causes, but I would like to hear from you guys. There are a lot of, if we look at the injury track history for the Cardinals, Marquise Brown is questionable going into the game. He was ill, so it should be interesting. James Conner was officially put on IR today, IR on October 10th, a couple days ago. So he is pretty much done for at least 4 weeks. So rely on their Evan DeMarco, the undrafted running back, some of their other running backs. No Buda Baker, he's still on the IR. He's pretty much out for the season. I don't think he'll play. Kyle Murray still out. He's not expected to return from PUP next week when he's eligible. He's still a weeks away, so I still rely on Joshua Dobbs. From the Arizona Cardinals, nothing of mention. Ravens, I know no Odafe Owe, the pass rusher, and still no J.K. Dobbins. He's done for the season. David Njoku is pretty much might not return from injuries or this season. He hurt his ankle and knee again, which he did tear his ACL in his final year at Michigan, which kept him out most of the season his rookie year. So that's another big loss. From the Bills, their biggest loss was Tre'Davious White going down with his Achilles October 7th, which he is on the IR. They are hurting at the tight end position with both Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid both injured and questionable. You have, for the Panthers, big of notice, Derek Brown, Brian Burns are questionable with Von Bell being out this week. Bears, I would watch. Khalil Herbert and Travis Homer are both out. Akil White is out with a ankle injury, so see that they will rely on Roscoe Johnson and Dante Foreman as your running backs. T. Higgins is questionable. He's hoping to return in time to play. He did practice fully on Friday, so let's see if he can go through walkthroughs without injuries. David Njoku is questionable, but shouldn't see any problem with him playing. But no Joe Bitonio, no Cedric Tillman, and no Deshaun Watson, which is a huge loss, like I mentioned earlier. But yeah, and those are just some of the big key injuries throughout the league for some teams. But my thing for this week is pretty much watch what Denver does. If Denver takes another loss this season, we can see probably players being traded. I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry Jeudy could be traded. Cortland Sutton could be traded. And Patrick Surtain could be traded. No one is off limits in Denver right now. I think Sean Payton, what he wants to do after seeing this team, he wants to start fresh, wants to go younger, go more youthful. And we saw that with getting rid of Randy Gregory and Frank Clark, going with the younger edge rushers. So that's kind of where the trade deadline's looming. Let's see what teams you think will make a push for trades. You think will be sellers? Definitely some of the one win teams and zero win teams will probably look to trade veterans and get rid of and go youthful. And then we'll see some of those teams pushing for playoffs and pushing for a division or pushing for the Super Bowl will push to get more veterans and more depth house once the season goes on, because injuries will happen throughout the season. So this was kind of a quick episode, only 20 minutes. Talked about everything I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I will be releasing an NFL, and NCAA college football, NFL football draft, mock draft 1.0 in the episode by itself. Look for that coming out soon. And then we have a soccer episode getting released soon. And then a NBA podcast on Sunday as well. So see y'all soon. And like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. And see you guys next time. Peace.